to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. And today is it is October the 28th, 2016. And I'm going to say thank you to all you good boys that listen out for Charlton and Big C Sports in the universe, because Charlton and Big C Sports is rated number one in the galaxy, Big C. In fact, also number one in the universe, Big C, according to Big C and his good old boys. No hanging chats. Also broadcasting with the iHeart Media Network, the number one media network in the United States of America. So thank you very much for that, iHeart. Also, I want to say bienvenidos to all of you out in Latin America. Thank you so much for following Charlton and Big C, as well as the United Kingdom following Charlton and Big C. I also want to say Canada, thank you so much, Canada, for not tuning us out because I chewed up your national anthem, Big C. I apologize for that. And also the good old boys in the United States, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Big C, how's it going for you good old boys down south, Big C?
Well, we got a little warmth going on down here, Charlton. It was fall a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
The leaves started turning. Now all of a sudden got to turn the sprinklers back on the grass. You know,
Yeah.
the catfish pond getting a little low, so I'm going to have to go out there and just grab them out with my hand. You know, I can see them swimming around now.
Yeah, you know, I hear you're a good catfisherman, but I went down and catfished with you one time. I was using some bait and a hook. You actually had a net, Big C, so I don't know if it's not fair game for the catfish, Big C.
Well, you know, he has a purpose, Charlton, and that's keeping me fat and satisfied, you know, so I'm going to get my fish however I can get it.
Nothing wrong with that. I've heard of guys that would actually train animals, but I never heard of someone who could train fish to jump into the skillet, Big C. I thought that was pretty miraculous. But speaking of jumping,
that was impressive. That's an impressive thing. He's used to swimming around in cool water.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I got something hot.
Yeah, he thought he thought he was in Disneyland, Big C, but that's a good trick, Big C. And also, for you good old boys that love this time of the year, I'm telling you, if you can't get into baseball now, with this series tied at one game apiece in the Big C World Series, and we call it Big C because Chicago and Cleveland, but also because of Charlton and Big C Sports, Big C, and no paraphrasing, but it is the Big C World Series. I love that, Big C. I can't wait until they have the Big C hat, where they have both Chicago and Cleveland on the same hat the way Big C Sports does it. But I know this is a great atmosphere just for the city of Chicago alone. It's been, 71 years since they've been in the World Series, Big C?
71 years since the game has been played in Chicago in the World Series. 71 years, Charlton. A lifetime. You know, you think about how many people have sit around and waited in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois for this to occur. Really, the whole United States, Charlton.
Oh, yeah.
This is just one of those marvelous, miraculous things. When you think about sports, you think about history, and you think about the time frame of life in America. It's all captivated here in Chicago tonight, Charlton, for the Big C World Series.
Yeah, I love that. Big C, there's something about your voice, man. I just love hearing that deep baritone voice. I say you, and who's the brother for CNN, James Earl Jones, who also played Darth Vader. You guys have that you got the same kind of windpipes going on, Big C. So could you imagine, this is the Big C World Series? I just love that, Big C. That's funny. But also,
I'm waiting on the network. I'm waiting on the network to copy that. They copy so much of what we've done.
Yeah.
And if they copy the Big C World Series, there's no way of hiding it. We've blasted it out throughout the universe.
Well,
everybody around the world, and even up on the space station in the Starship.
Oh yeah.
They've heard about the Big C World Series. So
well,
ESPN and Fox breaks that out.
Yeah.
And Joe Buck with his hair plugs, it's all over.
That's so funny. Leave his hair plugs at home, Big C. And speaking of hair plugs, this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade. The Big C limited version is coming out in 2017. And also, when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And again, Big C's the one with the mud. Now, this is not really a joke, but the VP candidate for Donald Trump, their plane actually landed. They had a kind of an emergency landing at LaGuardia Airport, I believe. And guess what they found on the front of the airplane window? Big C, just take one guess.
I'm gonna say they a little mud.
They had some mud on the windshield, Big C. I said they must have been falling behind Big C. Even the United Airlines company is following Charlton and Big C Sports. Thank goodness that everybody's okay. But I just cracked up when the TV commentator said there was mud on the windshield of an airplane. That's funny.
Big C is everywhere, Charlton. Not in the universe, but he's following the presidential campaign.
That is so funny, Big C. But anyway, I just want to say I appreciate so much what we do on this program. We have so much fun with it. To me, this is like having a lot of fun. It's like being a kid in a candy store following Charlton and Big C Sports. But I do want to get in before we get into what's going on. We know baseball is going to be great in the city of Chicago. I think you said someone spent, was it $71,000 for 2 tickets, Big C, or something like that, Big C?
Actually, Charlton, Game 5, the third game that will be played in Chicago, and they're hoping that's the game that the Cubs wrap it up for the World Series title, even though I feel it will go 7.
Yeah.
He spent, for 4 tickets, an individual spent $78,100, Charlton, for 4 tickets for Game 5 of the World Series. When you want to talk about a dedicated fan, a guy with some loose change in his pocket, that's the guy.
Yeah, that's the guy. That's the guy you love. Have him come over on your couch and take a nap, because when you get up, you might have enough to make a couple mortgage payments with that guy, Big C. But also, when we get into, the world, I just got to touch on a little bit, because it can't leave politics behind. We know that we had the incident with Donald Trump and the crotch grabbing, Big C. Obviously, we decided that if he did play the NFL, since he likes to do locker room talk, he would have been an offensive line, because they grab people all the time. But grabbing NFL players, you might get a different reaction than grabbing some teenage girl, Big C, in a beauty contest. But I just want to keep this in mind. It's kind of important. Is this gentleman that was part of the gymnastics team, they filed a lawsuit against USA Gymnastics, and some of its top officials claiming that the former national team coordinator, Bella and Martha, I think it's Carolee, they fostered a toxic environment because they allowed that the team doctor put some of their trainees and some of the students there. They were underage, obviously, they're teenagers, and he put them in sexually unwanted situations. There was, charges of sexual abuse. Now, no one's saying that grabbing the crotch and then actually violating a woman is the same level of intensity, Big C, but I think they're both called sexual abuse. Well, with this gentleman, he was charged with sexual abuse, and they let him go. They dismissed him from the organization USA Gymnastics because of the concerns. Now, also, Big C, unlike Donald Trump, they reported this information to the FBI because they're saying grabbing a woman in a private area is actually, it's a crime. It's not just good old boy talk. I thought that was ironic that the USA Gymnastics team, the same thing, Big C.
About the USA Gymnastics, these are all young girls, not even teenagers.
Yeah.
These are all young girls when they start. So we're talking about a pedophile, Charlton.
Yeah.
Not just a sexual abuser, but a pedophile. These are the guys you give life in prison. Because when you talk about rehabilitation, it's about going and spending some time with some grown men. That's the rehabilitation that they need, Charlton. And to release this man back into society, saying that he's not a threat, and yes, he's preying on young girls, Charlton. This is part of what's wrong when we talk about social equality. And we not just talk about that for minorities, but we talk about that for women, Charlton.
Yeah.
That they should not have to be put under this auspices of this umbrella, that they're not protected by society, that men can do and say whatever they want to them and get away because it's good old boy in his locker room talking.
Yeah.
Whatever lie they want to come up with, Charlton. Abuse and assault are the same, Charlton. And these people should be persecuted to the full extent of the law.
Well,
I understand we're a sports show, but we're also a social show.
Oh,
Charlton.
yeah. But
and we defend everybody who cannot defend themselves. That's why Josh Brown got cut from the New York Giants for beating on his wife. But the ownership of that organization should receive a fine from the NFL for covering up. Charlton. The owner knew about this for over 2 years. John Mara knew about this situation of his kicker beating on his wife, abusing her, and just kept paying the guy $74,000 a week to kick. And he would go home and kick on his wife also. The NFL league office from Roger Goodell on down, there needs to be some hands rolled. The commissioner's constantly talking about the integrity of the league, protecting the shield. He wouldn't even protect Josh Brown's ex-wife.
No, not her at all.
How can he talk about integrity of the league, protecting the shield, when he wouldn't even protect the woman that he knew was being abused?
Well, see, I just wanted to bring that up because sports and politics and also if you look at the world of gymnastics, that's a sport, right? Well, the same thing that happened in the gymnastics situation happened for a guy running for the presidency of the United States. One guy, they dropped him, they walked away from him, and actually reported his actions to the FBI. The other guy, he's stomping around the country. He's looking for the ghetto vote now, Big C. Donald Trump said last night he thought he was hanging out with his good old boys. First he said he's looking for the black vote. Now he's looking for the ghetto vote, okay? And that means black Americans just for those like Don King, if you guys don't understand that. He's looking for your vote too, but he called it the ghetto vote. And this is the guy that wants to do stop and frisk. And you got to see the documentary 13th if you haven't seen it. I just think it's a crazy world that we live in when the same Donald Trump, there were 5 African-American men indicted for something they did not do. He took out a 4-page ad saying to incriminate these guys. Well, he's also denied every accusation of every woman.
This was back in the early 80s.
Yeah.
When there was a rape that occurred in Central Park and they arrested 5 young African-American teenage boys.
Yeah.
And they were all charged with the crime. 12 to 16 years later, they were all exonerated, Charlton, due to DNA evidence that didn't exist at that time as far as the sampling of it.
Yeah.
You know, but they were all proven innocent. But during the time of their arrest, they never went to trial, Charlton. Donald Trump took out a full-page ad in the New York Times, a full-page ad asking for the death penalty from people who had wrongly been convicted. And they were convicted of a crime that they did not do, but a crime that he's committed, Charlton.
Yeah, I know.
The crime that he's committed, he's asked for the death penalty for African Americans who did not commit the crime. So when we want to talk about parity and fairness in American society, this is the guy that half of America wants to be the president of America.
It's a shame.
If he becomes the president of the United States, Charlton, what type of person would he be? He has demonstrated his lack of leadership and cognitive ability about society. Yes, he may have a few successful business, but he doesn't tell people how many times he's filed bankruptcy, and he's put over 4,000 small business people out of business because he refused to pay the bills that he owed them.
Well, I just think it's incredible that he's looking for the ghetto vote, Big C. For anyone who, if you believe in equality, don't forget to add the ghetto vote because that's what Donald Trump wants. And then he said, African-American vote.
Did he have that put on the ballot, Charles,
no,
the ghetto vote?
No, he might do it. He might.
There was a crayon in his hand and marked ghetto on all the ballots.
Well, that is so crazy. And before we get into our college basketball polls real quick, and we'll hit on some college football and NFL, this segment is also sponsored by the California Lottery. What can a buck do for you? Now, the Mega Million is only about $35 million. So, Big C, you probably won't get out of bed for that, Big C. But the Powerball on Saturday night, that's worth about $168 million, Big C. I mean, that's enough to buy a couple of more games at Wrigley Field, Big C, for the good old boys that love Chicago Cubs baseball. But Charlton and Big C Sports have already won it. I feel like it's already happened. Now, I want to tell you something, Big C. I'm so pumped up today. When I saw that mud was on the windshield of the airplane, it's like they tried to say that Big C threw the mud at the airplane, Big C. I know that's a crazy world, but when would you find mud on the windshield of the airport, Big C?
Well, maybe the pilot was listening to the show and tried to take a detour to the swamp, Jonathan.
That is so funny.
Some gators and the runway and they let me go get one.
That is so funny, Big C. You know we told you drive that Cadillac Escalade through the mud. Now they're flying 747s through the mud, Big C. You gotta be careful what you ask for, Big C. Some people might believe you. But also into the world of college basketball on this happy Friday, we have Connecticut. They'll start again trying to defend their college championship, their NCAA championship. And quickly, the top teams, Gino Auriemma, just an amazing coach. He surpassed the great John Wooden, Big C. And, of course, he coaches college basketball, so they got to try to keep Donald Trump out of those stadiums, Big C. And he has a lot of women on his team, Big C. And they don't like that locker room talk, but Connecticut's number 1, followed by the great Notre Dame at number 2, South Carolina number 3, Baylor number 4, Maryland number 5. The great Ohio State is at number 6, followed by Texas, as well as Louisville. UCLA is number 9, and the great Stanford rounds out number 10. And Big C, just your thoughts again on Coach Auriemma. How's he been able to have such a great attitude, such a great winning background, and none of the women that he's dealt with have the same kind of attitude that Donald Trump has toward teenage women, Big C? Just your thoughts on the kind of leadership he's shown at UConn, Big C.
Well, you think about Gino Auriemma, Charlton. He's a consummate basketball coach. People always talk about Mike Krzyzewski on the men's side, but Gino Auriemma, he teaches the game, Charlton. He teaches the fundamentals. he gets these girls who buy into his program, these girls, these young ladies
who
buy into his program, and they go there with the attitude to win. They're not selfish. You understand that team concept at UConn, and if you look at his productivity in the last 15 years of college women's basketball, Charlton, it's been unparalleled. There would be a men's team, a men organization that would love to have the record that Coach has had, Charlton, over the past 15 years. He has set the standard of excellence. You know, everybody talked about John Wooden being the greatest coach in college basketball history. Then you had Pat Summitt, the late Pat Summitt, who surpassed what he had done, Charlton, over the years, but hadn't won as many championships. But you look at Coach Auriemma, who is still going strong. He has been courted by everybody, men's college basketball, the NBA, Charlton, that he loves what he does at the UConn. He teaches. He takes these members, make them great members of society, Charlton, not just excellent athletes, but they become very productive and positive members of society, role models to other young girls who may be struggling about their self-esteem that Donald Trump has talked about them, and people like that. But once they get there and they get in that family of UConn with Coach Auriemma, they become the greatest athletes and people in American society, Charles.
Well, Big C, I think that's so incredible. Also, as we look around the top 25 in college women's basketball, Mississippi is 11, followed by number 12, Florida State, number 13, Syracuse, number 14, Tennessee, and the good old girls down in Tennessee, and number 15, Washington, doing their thing in football and basketball. Arizona State is 16, followed by number 17, Oregon State, number 18, Oklahoma. Kentucky, the good old boys, line up at number 19, and number 20, Miami, Florida. And the final five is DePaul, 21, Michigan State, 22, Texas A&M, 23, followed by Florida at 24, and West Virginia, 25, Big C. So college basketball starting off strong, and UConn, if there's ever been a level of consistency, I think Auriemma has done it at UConn. And now, Big C, we have a lot of football to cover, and we're going to get into the college football scene. We'll highlight a few games. We just talked about Washington and how good they are in basketball. They're ranked number 4 in the country. They're at number 16, Utah. That game is Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox Sports 1. And the line has Washington favored by 10. I think that might be a stretch because Utah's very strong at home up in the mountains. Big C, the air is a little bit thin up there. But the Huskies have a quarterback, Jake Browning. He's amassed 1,708 passing yards and 26 touchdowns already, Big C, for the Washington Huskies. They're going to be very strong on offense, and they have a great defense as well, and Utah has a great running game. Your thoughts on Washington going up into Utah? You know, Michigan went up there 2 years ago and got beat, Big C. Your thoughts on this game?
Well, this is one of those trap-type games, Charlton. The air is a little bit thinner in Salt Lake City. Also, Johnson, the quarterback for Utah, he's a transfer from University of Washington. So he knows his team very well. He knows the talent on the team. And sometimes, Charlton, when you get a kid that's transferred, he's playing with a little bit of an edge.
You think so?
The productivity that Utah's had. Well, you know, when Peterson came in, he felt that he wasn't the quarterback. And he inserted Browning, the true freshman, after he'd been in the program for a year. So he felt a little jumpy, so he transferred out to Utah, and he sat out a year. But this is a chance to play Washington at home. He has a point to prove. You know, and he has a lot of friends on that team, so they all know each other. But, you know, when you're the quarterback, you have a little bit of advantage sometimes. He's a great athlete, very strong arm. So, you know, look for this game, Charlton, to be a little bit closer than what they said. You know, this is going to be a competition with two excellent quarterbacks, Johnson and Browning, but two fine programs also. Peterson has turned Washington completely around from what they were a decade ago, Charlton, under Sarkisian and a couple of coaches that drizzled through the University of Washington. But, you know, this Utah program has been strong ever since Urban Meyer was there, Charlton, back in the 80s. And they built the powerhouse, and they've been one of the unknown commodities in college football over the past 2 decades, Charlton.
Well, Big C, they have a great defensive end by the name of Hunter Diminick. He's great at creating pressure for quarterbacks. Also, they have a really stud running back in Joe Williams, and they have a linebacker, Azim Victor. They're going to be very competitive against that Washington team. If the Huskies win, I think they'll win it by a touchdown. I don't see a 2-point victory, not at Utah on the road. Jim Harbaugh found that out, and also, you know, USC's found that out a couple of times going up there trying to win too. Another game that almost has upset written all over it, number 6 Nebraska, Big C, the Cornhuskers. They are at number 11 Wisconsin, which has 2 close losses to Michigan and also Ohio State. but Ohio State had to come from behind to beat them. That game is Saturday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on ESPN, and the line has Wisconsin favored by 8.5, Big C. Now, we know they have a very good defense. The Badgers' defense is very stingy. They rank 4th in the country on third down stops, and the Cornhuskers quarterback, Tommy Armstrong, he can make a lot of things happen, but you can't be in third and long against this Wisconsin team because they're very physical on the line of scrimmage. Big C, your thoughts on that game?
You think about Wisconsin, they were ranked number 10 in the country a couple of weeks ago, Charlton.
Yeah.
There's a reason why teams lose. They're just not as good as the team that beats them.
Yeah.
And yes, they have 2 losses. People say they're the best 2-loss team in the country.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of 2-loss teams in the country, Charlton, so they can all make a claim to that.
Yeah.
There's something about being undefeated. And you got to look at what Mike Riley has done to this Nebraska program. He's brought them back to the days when Tom Osborne was there, where you're halfway through the season and you're undefeated, Charlton. He left Oregon State. He was also the head coach at San Diego Chargers for some time. But, after leaving Oregon State, coming, to Nebraska, making that move, he has turned this Husker program back in Nebraska pride, Charlton. You see a sea of red, the 3rd largest city in Nebraska.
Yeah.
Every Saturday when they have a home game.
Yeah, an open house.
When you think about the athletes that he's developed, he's changed the culture there in Nebraska. And that's what you have to do at times.
Yeah.
You have to change cultures in these big programs and give them a kickstart. He's done that, and he did it with a lot of the players left over from both Pelini, Charlton. He had not retooled that team. It was about coaching attitude, bringing a fresh breath of air to Nebraska.
Yeah.
I like Nebraska in this game. I like Mike Riley as a coach. I've known him for many years, Charlton. And I think he'll get the job done this week against Wisconsin. They will be the best 3-loss team in the country.
Well, Big C, that's funny. I think Armstrong can really climb the ladder as far as being one of the most noteworthy quarterbacks out there in the country if Nebraska can pull off that win, Big C. Number 12, Florida versus Georgia. That game's going to be in Jacksonville. That's always a big game down south, Big C. They have Florida by 7.5. That game is Saturday, 3:30 p.m.
The world's largest cocktail party.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of my people to hang out.
A lot of the good old boys hanging out down there. And they have Florida actually favored that game by 7.5. Just a tremendous matchup. The Southeastern Conference does it well. They can even go into Jacksonville, Florida, and play in front of a packed house. Big C, your thoughts on Florida? They're ranked number 12 in the country. Will Georgia bring them back down to earth, or do you think Florida gets this win, Big C?
Well, Kirby Smart doesn't have the talent at Georgia that he had at Alabama when he was the defensive coordinator, Charlton. That's been the difference. You bring in a new coach starting at the system, and it's really no better than the coach that you got rid of. It takes a couple years to build it. Kirby Smart's not going to be under any pressure at Georgia, but he's playing in the SEC. And you look at Florida with McElwain as the head coach down there.
Yeah. He's
gotten Del Rio back at quarterback. Del Rio had the knee injury about a month ago, Charlton. He's back at pivot. So that's going to make a difference for the Florida offense. And I'm going to give Florida advantage in this game with the throwing ability of Jack Del Rio over Georgia. Yeah,
well, that should be a great game. You Southern boys really know how to put it together, Big C. And the final college game we'll touch on is number 3 Clemson. They're at number 14. Florida State. A lot of people have Florida State ranked in the top 3 when the season began. That game is going to be on Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ABC Sports. And the pregame has Clemson, the line by Vegas. Clemson's favored by 4.5 at Tallahassee. When you think about the Seminoles, they've been beaten twice. They lost on the last-second field goal to North Carolina. But I'm telling you, this game, they played a game against Louisville. They were really blown out against Louisville. Played much better against North Carolina. But if you think about Clemson coming to town, a strong performance by quarterback Deshaun Watson could help him in his Heisman Trophy race, Big C. Your thoughts on Clemson, number 3, going into number 14, Florida State?
When you think about the common opponents that they both had, Charlton, Louisville dominated Florida State. But also, Clemson barely got out against Louisville.
Yeah.
So when you think about that comparison of the two teams, they got to know each other well. But Florida State, when you look at Dalvin Cook, the running back at Florida State, he leads all running backs.
He's amazing.
Yards from scrimmage.
Yeah.
And he's missed the game, Charlton. So that's how dominant he is. And you think about Florida State's losses. They came early in the season, Charlton. They came early. So they've caught their stride now. They're playing good football. They had that unfortunate loss against North Carolina on the field goal, but it was a rainy, wet day. This is a rivalry game with Florida State. If you go back a couple of years, Winston at quarterback.
Yeah.
And they went into Death Valley. And Clemson had them on the road.
Yeah.
But they came back and they won that game. But, this is one of those games that's a toss-up game. It's down in Tallahassee. It's always a tough place to play down there at Florida State, Johnson. Clemson should win the game,
yeah,
but it's going to be a lot closer than the point spread that's out there.
I agree with you, Big C. That's a lot of points can be scored in that game. And just a few more teams out there. Number 2, Michigan. They're 7-0. They're on the road at actually Michigan State is 2-5, which is very disappointing. Michigan's favored by 24.5 points with a $10 million coach and Coach Harbaugh. Also, Baylor ranked number 6. They're 6-0. They're at Texas 3-4, and Baylor's only favored by 3.5 points. They're ranked number 6 in the country, but they're only favored by 3.5 points at Texas. And then you also have, two teams that used to be the top in the example of college football. Miami, they're only 4-3. They're actually Notre Dame, not even ranked anymore. They're 2-5 on the season for Notre Dame. Miami's favored by 2 at Touchdown Jesus. Just your thoughts on Notre Dame. No one would ever expect Notre Dame to be 2-5 on the season after 7 games, and you have a school like Central Michigan that's 5-3. What's going on with Notre Dame this year, Big C?
What's going on with Notre Dame, Charlton? The disarray and the cockiness of Brian Kelly, the head coach. He became detached from his players because he started blaming his players for the lack of performance. Yes, players do perform on the field, but it's a coach's job to get them ready, Charlton, week in and week out. You can't just fire coach and say, hey, this other guy's going to step in and have the answers. If he had the answers, he'd have been that coach originally. Yeah. But when you look at Brian Kelly, he really only had one dominant year at Notre Dame, Charlton, when he played in the national. Well, he showed up at the national.
Yeah, they played you good up, boys.
They showed up.
And who beat them that year? Was it your good up boys, Alabama?
It looked like a doormat, Yeah. The game was over before the kickoff. All right?
Funny, Big C.
But when you think about other than that, what has Brian Kelly really done at Notre Dame, Charlton?
Well, wait.
He's never been in the national championship run.
Yeah. That's true, Big C. They play a tough schedule, but he's cashed all of his paychecks, Big C.
Hold on, wait. Let me check to see the last time Navy was up for a national championship.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me, the Air Force Academy. I forgot about this. Wait, Army.
Are you anti-American, Big C? No.
I love the Naval Academy, Charlton. I have the utmost respect for the academies. And those gentlemen that participate in the academy, they're not athletes, they're servicemen, Charlton, who go out and play athletics for fun. You got to respect them. They're not sitting there trying for an NFL career. They're looking at a professional career and being part of our government structure in our country, Charlton. Yeah. The most highly respect for those young men. But when you talk about Notre Dame's record every year, these are the teams that they play. Yeah. These are the teams that they say they're going out and dominate. But they've lost the Army the past couple of years, Charlton. Yeah. So when you think about it, people are getting up to Notre Dame, but when you schedule the 3 academies every year, Charlton, you almost want to write those in as victories, and that hasn't happened for Notre Dame as of late. People have felt that Notre Dame were not that strong, and they've gone out and won some games against them. So you always got to look at Notre Dame's record with 3 asterisks on their, Charlton, because they have the academies on there. Yeah. And that doesn't make them a dominant team throughout the country.
Well, that's true, Big C. Also, speaking of the academies, Air Force 4-3 there at Fresno State tonight in California. And that's 1-7. Fresno State just replaced their head football coach. Also, Auburn's playing at Mississippi. You have Arizona State at 5-3 on the road at 2-5. Oregon. Who would ever have thought Oregon would be 2-5? And then to finish out in college football, Washington State at 5-2 is at Oregon State 2-5, and Stanford is 4-3 at Arizona 2-5. Big C, as we get into the NFL, I want to say that this segment is sponsored by United Labor Guaranteed $100,000 life insurance with no medical questions. We are endorsed by the American Cancer Society and the American Heart Association, and we are endorsed by all of the unions under the AFL-CIO, giving all life insurance to all of the union workers in the United States. We're also looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to help put people back to work. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports as we try to keep everybody covered. And as we get into the NFL, I just want to say that the Black College Football Poll, they have the top 10. Number 1, North Carolina A&T, they are at 6-1, followed by number 2, Grambling at 4-1. Number 3, Tennessee State is 5-2. North Carolina Central is 6-2. Southern is ranked number 5 in the country at 4-2. Prairie View A&M, they are 4-3 in the country. And also South Carolina State at 3-3. Alcorn State, Jackson State, and Florida A&M round out the top 10. So congratulations to the Black College Football Conference down in the South Big C. And now I want to get into the NFL because that's what everybody loves. Last night, Tennessee beat Jacksonville by the score of 36-22. DeMarco Murray had...
On the game last night, was that an arena game or was that an NFL game? We're talking about some atrocious looking uniforms. The NFL was talking about marketing and keeping fans interested. I think once you turn it on, and I got this thing called this 4K TV, and I thought I was blind. I mean, it was just, the colors just, they were dressing, on an NFL team. I mean, when you're wearing colors like that, can you really play?
Yeah.
You out there laughing at
Big Z.
It looked like Halloween last night.
Big Z had to return his TV because he thought his TV was off color. But no, those are the real colors, Big Z. And DeMarco Murray had 123 yards and 1 rushing touchdown. And Marcus Mariota is looking very good, 18-22, 270 yards and 2 touchdown passes. Blake Bortles, even though they were down 27-0 at halftime, he completed 33 of 54 for 337 and 3 touchdowns. But the games I want to get into coming up this Sunday, Big C, the Washington Redskins 4-3 versus the Cincinnati Bengals. That game is going to be at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time from Wembley Stadium in London on Fox, and the Bengals are favored by 3. And we appreciate you good old boys in London for following Charlton and Big C Sports. Big C, Washington's Kirk Cousins and Cincinnati's Andy Dalton. They've been playing good football of late. Your thoughts on that game?
Well, I like the way Kirk Cousins has played as of late, Charlton. He lost the game last week, but, he seemed to have caught his stride. Cincinnati can't get over the injury bug. Jeremy Hill got hurt last week, their top running back. So it's going to be left on Bernard's shoulders. A.J. Green at any point can have a great game. But they haven't gotten the play out of that tight end this year, Charlton. He's come back off knee injury. And so that's been a big key in the offense that they haven't had. The defense has been so-so. I don't know what Burfict is going to do in this game. And when he goes out there, you never know what penalties you're going to get during the game, Charlton. But I don't like Cincinnati winning this game, Charlton. They just struggled this year. They showed a lack of consistency. So this might be the year that Marvin Lewis is finally out of there like everybody wants him out, Charlton.
Well, when you look at Green for the Bengals, he has 50 catches and at least 150 150-yard games. He's very good. Breland gives up 5 inches to Green, who's 6'4". It's going to be a tough match in the passing game. And also, the number 2 choice I have out here for games to watch, because it's going to really tell how the season's going to go, is the Oakland Raiders. They're 5-2 in the season, Big C, and they're at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They both have these skeleton guys, these pirates and skeletons on their helmets, Big C. And also a little bit of good news for Oakland fans is that the gentleman down in Las Vegas with all the money, I think his name is Alleman, he's talking about pulling out because the Raiders are asking for too much money and pay too much money. And in Las Vegas, that's an oxymoron. But ironically, the Raiders 5-2, Tampa Bay 3-3. That's Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS Sports. And it's really a pick 'em, but I think the Raiders can win it because they have Janikowski. I think both quarterbacks are great. The Raiders give up about 440 yards on defense. That's too much. And you look at Crabtree as a receiver, he's a much go-to guy, a guy that makes big plays. And also, I want to say, in the kicking game, the Raiders have one of the best punters in the league, too. So I think it's going to help them for not traveling back to the West Coast. They stayed in Florida after they had the game at Jacksonville. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charlton, isn't it ironic that both of these teams have Halloween logos on their helmets?
They do.
For Halloween weekend. So, it's a but, you also look at Tampa Bay last week, Charlton. They hung up 45 points. So this is a team that can put points on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And we know how mediocre the Raiders defense has been this year. They've been very meaning, giving up the big plays. So this game plays for a real tight game. If Winston can avoid throwing the interception, the Raiders may not come out of there with a victory, Charlton, even after staying out east all week.
And when you look at the passing receivers, Evans for Tampa has 40 receptions, 545 yards. Crabtree has 39 for 461. Another marquee game. It's really kind of an upset alert, Big C, because the Seattle Seahawks, they're very good, but they just look a little bit off. They're 4-1-1. They're at New Orleans. The Saints are 2-4. Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. The Seahawks are favored by 3, but Russell Wilson doesn't seem all that healthy. Drew Brees can always light it up for 300 yards. I just want to get your thoughts on this game in Seattle traveling into the Big Easy, Big C. Your thoughts on that game?
This is a trap game for Seattle, Charlton. When you look at their offensive productivity, it's been very lackluster this year. And last week, not scoring an offensive touchdown. You cannot play New Orleans and not score an offensive touchdown, Charlton. New Orleans will score points. They will put the ball in the air consistently. They don't rely on the running game, and Seattle hasn't had much of a running game at all this year, Charlton. So it's all been on Wilson, and with him with the gimpy leg, Charlton, they haven't got the productivity on the ground this year. So I like New Orleans in this game at home to finally win one at home this year, Charlton, and Seattle to be technically upset on the road.
Well, Big C, the way they have been playing offensively, it really wouldn't be an upset. You can't go to the NFL scoring 6 points and winning games, Big C. Another game coming up, Big C, the Detroit Lions 4-3. They're at the great Brock Osweiler, actually the $73 million Osweiler, who are 4-3 on the season, and that game's going to be in the great state of Texas Sunday, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time on Fox. And I guess I guess Las Vegas, they didn't see the game at Denver because they had the Texans favored by 2.5. I don't know what Brock Osweiler's going to do to show that he wasn't stealing money, Big C. In fact, they might have him on the milk cartons all over the post offices in Texas because he didn't show up, Big C. Your thoughts on the Lions going down? The Stafford's actually playing pretty good football, Big C.
Well, you think about Matthew Stafford, Charlton. He actually had his 24th come from behind victory as a quarterback in the NFL, and there's been some chatter about having him in the MVP talk for the season, Charlton. Detroit, after that 4-3 start, they win this game, and they're well above 500, going into the second half of the season.
Yeah.
And Jim Caldwell's an excellent coach. People forget that he took the Indianapolis Colts to the AFC Championship game after taking over from Tony Dungy prior to going to Detroit, Charlton.
Yeah.
So when you look at he's got this quarterback who was number 1 overall draft pick in the NFL, who was finally, after 8 years, developing as a quarterback.
Yeah.
But you also look at Houston. This is the team that they are who we thought they were. They were the Tigers, and without J.J. Watt, they don't have a true leader. Everyone thought that Jadeveon Clowney would step up.
Yeah.
But, I didn't see him on the field all night long.
Right.
He played about half the game, and he doing his normal thing. He's disappearing. I think his nickname was Houdini or something like that.
That's funny.
So, when you think about these guys getting all this money, Clowney, number 1 overall draft pick 3 years ago in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he plays like his name. And then you got Osweiler, who's obsolete almost already. So, this is a team of big names and lack of players. Without J.J. Watt, what is Houston?
Well, that's true, Big C. Also, a special game, especially for the Northeast. The New England Patriots, they're 6-1 on the season with the great Tom Brady. They're at Buffalo, 4-3. That game is Sunday, 1 o'clock Eastern time on CBS Sports. And the Patriots are favored by 5.5 points at Buffalo. Buffalo shut them out in Foxborough. But when you look at this game, overall, Tom Brady's 25-3 versus Buffalo with 62 touchdown passes against Buffalo. It had a 100.2 QB rating. And now on the defensive side of the ball, 9 sacks by the Bills' journeyman Lorenzo Alexander this season alone. That equals the total number he compiled in his first 9 NFL seasons. What a great game this is shaping up to be, Big C.
Well, Charlton, we look at the same Bills defense that gave up over 200 yards on the ground to a guy last week in Miami.
Yeah.
So they're still a little shell shock, and I believe that New England has this guy named Blunt, who was like blunt force trauma when he's running the ball. So he gained 127 yards last week on the ground. So look at New England to pound the ball against Buffalo. Yes, Brady's going to get his yards. You think about this team with this dual tight end threat. How do you cover? Now, Jacoby Brissett played quarterback for New England the last time they played and were shut out.
Yeah.
He's not Tom Brady. He's not ready for prime time in the NFL yet. Tom Brady is on a heater right now. He's like a Rawlings Chapman coming in for the Cubs out of the dugout. He's throwing heat. And when you're completing 78% of your passes as an NFL quarterback, it's hard to lose. And so if he stays on the pace that he is, Buffalo has a great team. Rex Ryan always plays Tom Brady tough. Even when he was with the New York Jets, they found a way to beat New England at least once a year.
Yeah.
But the thing about the New England Patriots, you got to go back and look to see the last time that Bill Belichick lost 2 games in a season to the same team.
Yeah.
It just doesn't occur. He will make adjustments, Charlton, offensively and defensively. This game will be at least a 14-point ball game in New England's favor.
Well, Big C, one thing I do disagree with it. You say it's hard to lose. The Cleveland Browns, they're 0-7. They're hosting the New York Jets that are 2-5. So the Browns disagree. It's pretty easy to lose sometimes, Big C. And that game is Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern time on CBS Sports. The Jets are favored by 3, and the good old boy Ryan Fitzpatrick is back at the helm. And I like the way he took some cheap shots at his organization, saying the coaches don't believe in him and the owner doesn't believe in him because he threw 9 interceptions in a couple of games, Big C. But he's got his job back, Big C. Your thoughts on the Jets and the Browns?
Well, let me tell you, the opposing secondary that they play believe in him game. Yeah. And they believed that they were going to get a bonus check. You throw 10 interceptions in the fourth quarter on the season. There's not many people who don't believe us you're playing against Charlton. He made a rightful statement. So he told the truth.
Yeah.
I like that. You got a quarterback with a chip on his shoulder. He's taking the Tom Brady approach. It's me against the world.
Yeah. That's funny.
I think he gets that from a Tupac Shakur song. Me against the world.
That's funny.
But you like Fitzpatrick having an attitude going out there. Cleveland, they're talking about starting McCown at quarterback.
Yeah.
Basically, this is the eighth time they started a different quarterback this season, Charlton. This is a team that is desperate to stay healthy. Not to complete a game, but desperate to stay healthy. So you feel for Hugh Jackson and the Browns organization.
Oh, yeah.
They're not the laughing stock in the NFL. They have great talent. They just can't keep everybody healthy at the same time. Hogan started last week. He's out with a shoulder injury, Charlton.
Yeah.
This is, quarterback by committee in Cleveland, and they can't even get anybody to sign with the Browns right now to want to play quarterback. Because they're going to last maybe a half.
Yeah. I mean, the Browns had it so bad, they were trying to get Johnny Manziel out of rehab to play quarterback after RG3 got hurt, Big C. And then another great game, it should be a great game coming up. Well, at least on paper, Big C, the Kansas City Chiefs 4-2 under the great Andy Reid. They're at Indianapolis 3-4, and Andrew Luck, who's one of the most overpaid quarterbacks in the history of the NFL. That game is on Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time on CBS Sports. The Chiefs are favored by 2.5 on the road against the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. And when you think about it, Coach Alex Smith, quarterback Alex Smith, he was 7 for 8, 120 yards and 2 touchdowns Sunday against the blitz. They're going to have to blitz him to get after him. But I know when you look at Andrew Luck, they always want to say he's struggling because the offensive line can't handle the blitz. I was always told that it's the quarterback that has to make the right read when he sees the blitz coming, Big C. Your thoughts on Andrew Luck not handling the blitz, Big C?
Well, as a quarterback, you gotta have that clock going on in your head to know when to get rid of the ball. You gotta recognize the front that they have defensively and what's coming at you.
So Big C, you're saying if they would have given him $164 million, then he would have been able to handle the blitz, Big C?
Well, it's not 135. Counting so much.
Yeah.
The clock went off a little quicker. You can always do that about a quarterback, but when you think about these two teams, Charles, I think it was 2 seasons ago in the playoffs, they had one of the greatest playoff games, and the coach had the largest comeback second largest comeback in a playoff game in NFL history.
Yeah.
When they came back and beat the Kansas City Chiefs here in Indianapolis. But these are two teams that match up well together. I think the Chiefs may have a slight advantage defensively, but the coach have a little bit more of an advantage in the receivers. But, this is a game that will be close. This is a defining game on the season. The winner of this game, Charlton, most likely will make the playoffs this year. The loser of this game will be jockeying for a draft pick.
Well, speaking of jockeying for a draft pick, this segment is sponsored by One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. We're also looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to help put people back to work. That means we want to put them inside of walls to work, not build up walls so they can't cross like Donald Trump, Big C. So if all your insurance brokers are looking for work, just follow Charlton Big C Sports on Twitter, and you can also follow us on the iHeart Radio Network every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time worldwide on Charlton and Big C Sports, the #1 sports show in the universe, Big C.
I want to touch on that Trump story there a little bit. What we do and what we're doing right now is we're analyzing games. We're giving people a thought process and a direction to look into.
Yeah.
And I keep waiting on the direction that Donald Trump is trying to give the country. When he's talking about he's going to change things, what he's going to do for America. He hasn't laid out any economic plan. He hasn't laid out any defense plan, which every team needs in sports. They need a defense plan.
Yeah.
He hasn't put out an offensive plan as far as how he's going to move the country forward. So when we talk about offense and defense, it applies in politics. He hasn't put out anything and how he's going to change. He's talking about abolishing Obamacare.
Yeah.
What is he going to replace it with?
Nothing.
You got to have a plan. If you're going to get rid of something, you got to have a plan of what you replace
it with. He doesn't. Big C, he doesn't need a plan. All he needs is for people to keep being dumb because he doesn't. He said that his employees are on Obamacare, a plan that he despises. His own employees are on Obamacare, a plan that he despises. His own employees with his own mouth, Big C. So tell me about that.
Well, yeah, he said his employee was on Obamacare, but he lied about that, Charlton, because they're on a private carrier that they have through his corporation.
Yeah.
And he didn't even realize that. He was sitting there blasting Obamacare, saying that his employees were having a hard time with Obamacare. But yet his general manager came out and said, no, we use a private carrier
that
we've always had as a corporation. So not only is he sitting there lying about Obamacare, not knowing about it and lying on his employees, but those words didn't come out of Donald Trump's mouth.
No, they never do.
You got to remember that. You got to realize that the media made that up.
This is the media's fault.
They lipstick that in. They had a voice expert to come in and mimic his voice, Charlton. But you got to look at that. Politics is like a game plan. It's like a head coach, and that's what we're looking at. Who has the plan? Who has the best plan for America? People can say who they like and who they don't like. But what you have to look at, Charlton, as a citizen out here of the United States, what's going to be the best opportunity for you going forward? Is it going to be about rhetoric, or is it going to be about facts? We can all utilize rhetoric. Rhetoric, Charlton, is what you and I do every day on the radio. We deal with rhetoric. That's what every talking head does on television and radio, Charlton. They deal with rhetoric. But we're not talking about altering somebody's life, Charlton. We're not talking about disrupting the world's flow of economy, Charlton. That's not what we're talking about doing. We're trying to be lighthearted and realistic about what we do. But at least we tell people the truth, Charlton. We don't lie, and we don't lie on others. We tell you the truth about another individual, whether he's on another network or whether it's about me talking about you. You know,
I understand that. I do hear, though, in fairness to Donald Trump, he does have a medical plan. He wants to make everyone a gynecologist so he can grab women where he wants to grab them, Big C. But someone has to tell him that's not appropriate. The men in jail for that, Donald Trump. So if he does have a plan, I think we've already seen it. It's called stop and frisk him and grab him by the crotch, Big C. That's what he's been doing in his own personal life. And then if you say he did it, he's going to sue you. So that's the new medical plan that Donald Trump has, Big C. And as we digest back into the NFL, Big C, and I do appreciate your tempe humor and saying I'm not funny sometimes. I think you reported me to the Canadian National Anthem Committee because they keep calling me, trying to get me on probation, Big C.
What I want to, I know you're all Canadians, the hockey team. I want to hear you say it in French. You say it in French. I have a whole new level of respect for you. I bow down at that point.
I can give you. You want some French? I'll give you some French, Big C. Bonjour. Now back to the NFL. The Arizona Cardinals 3-1, and they're at the Carolina Panthers 5-1. Big C. This was the NFC Championship game last year. That game is Sunday at 1:00 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox. And the Panthers are favored by 3. They're one of the highest scoring teams in the league on offense at 27 points a game, but their defense can't get it done, Big C. Your thoughts on the team going into this game, the Cardinals versus the Panthers? Who do you like going into this one, Big C?
Charles, I've heard a lot of talk all week, the talking heads talking about, well, Cam Newton needs to change his style of play at quarterback. Okay, he was in the Super Bowl last year in the league MVP at quarterback. Now, tell me what have the New Orleans Saints done the last 2 years, Charlton, as far as winning?
No, not that well.
It's been very abysmal, very hot. Has anyone said that Drew Brees needs to change his style of playing quarterback?
No.
Even though they're not winning?
No.
Has anybody said that Ryan Tannehill in Miami needs to change his style of playing quarterback?
No.
Let's even look at Jay Cutler, Charlton. What about Matt Ryan? When the Falcons went 8-8 last year after a 5-0 start, and now has lost their last 3 games. Has anybody said Matt Ryan needs to change his style of playing quarterback?
No.
What about Andrew Luck, the highest paid quarterback in the NFL? Nobody said he needs to change his style of play quarterback, but let's blame everybody else on the team. But in Carolina, let's blame everybody. Let's blame Cam Newton. Even though the offense is averaging close to 30 points a game, let's blame Cam Newton. Well, I don't understand how the national media looks at it when there's an African-American quarterback, Charlton, that you got to blame him. Because, it's even in San Francisco, we talked about Colin Kaepernick and Blaine Gabbert, Charlton. In the last 3 games, the 49ers defense giving up 138 points a game. You can't win a high school game.
That's Kaepernick's fault, Big C. That's Kaepernick's fault. He should have played on defense.
Well, they lined Kaepernick and Blaine Gabbert both up on the defensive line, linebackers, and secondary.
Well, I heard, Big C, I just want to say, I heard a Bay Area media pundit today when they were talking about the 49ers. They talked about Gabbert. They talked about Kaepernick. Kaepernick had 83% of the 49ers yards last week, okay? In the last game, 83%. They're saying, well, why don't we try Ponder? He has some tools that Kelly could work with. They realized the one guy that took him to the Super Bowl outside of Joe Montana, Steve Young, he's still there. It's not their offense that is bad. Their line is bad, but they don't have a defense, Big C. And as we close out,
look at this, Charlton. Look at this before you go. Look at what Ponder and Gabbard both have in common, Charlton.
Yeah, they're Caucasian. They're Caucasian.
They were both number one draft picks. Okay.
Yeah.
Ponder of the Minnesota Vikings, Gabbard of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah.
What did both of those organizations say about them?
Yeah.
They can't play.
Yeah.
All right, you got to think about that when you're in the local media, when you got these cast-off quarterbacks.
Yeah.
The teams that drafted them, spent a first-round draft pick on them, said they could not play and sent them packing, and you got them off the scrap heap.
Yeah.
So if you get something off the scrap heap, it's like in life. If you go to the neighbor's trash, his trash may be a treasure for you. And that's what the local media is thinking, that the trash is a treasure. But also, think about this, Charlton. What is the coastline of San Francisco? It's just a landfill.
Yeah, a landfill.
It's trash.
Yeah.
Okay? That's what they build up the team with.
Yeah, that's funny, Big C. That is so funny. And back to the NFL, the Chargers 3-4 at the Denver Broncos 5-2. The last time they played in San Diego, well, you said the Chargers would beat them, and they did beat them. Now they're going to Mile High up in Denver, and it's not only high because of elevation, Big C, it's high because of other reasons too. But Sunday at 4:05 Eastern Standard Time on CBS Sports, and the Broncos are favored by 4.5. You saw what they did to Brock Osweiler. Can Phillip Rivers have any success against this defense that puts so much pressure on you? And I want to get your thoughts on San Diego at Denver this Sunday, Big C.
Well, Phillip is very well versed against this Denver defense, Charlton. For the past decade, he's played against them. But not all the players have been there. But, Phillip Rivers is a gamey quarterback. But you also got to look at Denver from the offensive perspective, Charlton. They're going to be without Anderson at running back.
Yeah.
He's going to miss a few games with a bone bruise in his leg. So, they're running with the second and third string running back. And Simeon, Charlton, did not look that good in his last game. Even though they won, he is not pushing the ball down the field like he did prior to having his shoulder injury, Charlton.
Yeah.
So these are going to be some concerns. A lot of short underneath passes. Can San Diego get that pass rush untracked? They played well last week against the Atlanta Falcons. They put a lot of pressure on Matt Ryan. And when you're looking at the two quarterbacks, they're a lot similar. They're going to be in the pocket. And so look at San Diego to come after Denver. They beat them in their first game down in San Diego.
Yeah.
I feel that they'll have that same success this weekend, Charlton.
Well, that's a big pick right there, Big C. Also, the Green Bay Packers 4-2. They're at the Atlanta Falcons 4-3. That game is Sunday, 4:25 Eastern Time on Fox. The Falcons are favored by 3, and I'm telling you, there's two good quarterbacks, two marquee into this game. I just want to get your thoughts on the Packers. Do they have enough to go into Atlanta and keep up with them? Julio Jones, along with not being able to catch catfish like you, Big C, he can catch a football, though, but can the Packers keep up with this team at home, Big C?
Well, Charlton, this is two teams that are going to be thin at running back this week, so you're going to see the ball put in the air early and often throughout this game, Charlton. They're not going to be relying on the running game, so it's going to be a war of attrition on which arm outlasts the other one. They expect both quarterbacks to throw the ball at least 40 times in this game, Charlton. Atlanta will have the advantage because they're at home, and you think about their receiving corps. They have one of the finest receiving corps in the NFL. A lot of speed, a lot of size, so that gives Atlanta the advantage. We haven't had much of a pass rush on Green Bay side. Matthews most likely will be out this game, so that will hurt Green Bay from the defensive perspective. So I'm going to give the advantage to Atlanta at home to get off the side. Dan Quinn, if he makes another stupid mistake like he did last week, he'll be on the hot seat.
Oh, yeah, and when you look about it, too, Big C, when you have the Packers cornerbacks Micah Hyde and Ladarius Gunter versus the Falcons wide receiver Julio Jones, on paper it looks like a mismatch. When you look at Jones, how great he's been, 40 catches, 830 yards, and 4 touchdowns. He amassed 300 receiving yards versus Carolina in week number 4. Now the Philadelphia Eagles, they're 4-2 at the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys are 5-1. That's Sunday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC Sports with the great Al Michaels. The Cowboys are only favored by 4 in that game. Now, Des Bryant, they're expecting that he may play Big C. I like Dak Prescott. I like giving the ball to Ezekiel Elliott. I think Carson Wentz, even though the Cowboys don't have a great pass rush, they realize he's not good throwing the ball more than 20 yards downfield. He was 9 of 20 and 2 interceptions in the first half against the Vikings. Your thoughts on this game, Big C?
Well, Charlton, I think if Des Bryant gets back for the Cowboys, it will be an Achilles heel, because he will be in the huddle chirping and demanding the football that I'm open on every play.
Yeah.
The flow that the Cowboys they've had with some young receivers and a young quarterback and running back. They have a tremendous offensive line, and they played well as a cohesive unit. They haven't had, even with Jason Witten, this really tight end.
Yeah.
They haven't had him going out there demanding the ball. He's been open, and Prescott has got the ball to him. But this is a battle of the two hottest rookie quarterbacks in the NFL, Charlton, when you look at it.
Yeah.
You got Carson Wentz, who went number 2 overall. You got Dak Prescott, who went in the 4th round. And Dak Prescott has outplayed everybody's expectations this year. So there's been some chatter about Tony Romo being ready in a week or two. And I think there's a lot of wishful thinkers and hope that Dak Prescott goes out and loses a game and it gives him an excuse to put Tony Romo in the game.
Yeah.
But if he goes out and beats Philly with this great defense that they have, the number 3 ranked defense in the league, people said the Cowboys haven't beaten anybody. If they beat the Philadelphia Eagles with the number 3 ranked defense in the league, you got to really look at Dallas Cowboys being in the playoffs and being a contender here in 2016, Charles.
Well, Big C, I think you're right about that. Final game, the Minnesota Vikings 5-1 with the best defense in the league right now. They're at the Chicago Bears, which are 1-6. That game is Monday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. And you can even hear the siren going by the Golden One Center here in downtown Sacramento, California, getting ready for the game tomorrow night when the Minnesota Timberwolves come in. Last night they lost to the San Antonio Spurs. But back to the NFL, the Minnesota Vikings 5-1 on the road at the Chicago Bears 1-6. Monday Night Football 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. And the Vikings are favored by 5. They gotta find a way to put that loss against the Eagles out of their head, especially if you're Sam Bradford. Your thoughts about the Vikings and the Bears, Big C?
Well, the Vikings have this monstrous defense, Charlton, but their offense has been very lackluster this year. Even though they were undefeated going into the Philadelphia game, Charlton, coming out of that game, it left Sam Bradford with the lowest QBR rating in the NFL amongst all the starting quarterbacks. So, but there's been no backlash about his QBR rating because the defense has played so well in Minnesota. But this is a game that they have to win. It's a must-win game for the Minnesota Vikings. If they lose 2 consecutive games, now the naysayers will really come out on Sam Bradford. He'll start questioning himself, and you'll hear a big cry for Sean Hill, Charles.
Yeah, I think you're right, Big C. And no matter what happens, the Vikings got up to a great start. They're still missing their 2 great offensive weapons in Bridgewater and also Peterson. So just love the way their defense is playing, Big C. But as we wrap up tonight's broadcast, Big C, on this beautiful Happy Friday going into the weekend, we have the World Series Game 3 tonight in Chicago, and the fans are going nuts.
World Series,
I'm sorry, Big C, I forgot that. I thought I was ESPN. It's the Big C World Series. I'm sorry, Big C. I wasn't trying to take credit away from you, okay? But also I want to say, it should be a great setting in Chicago. Last night in Sacramento, we had a great environment here in Sacramento downtown with the San Antonio Spurs. They opened up the new Golden One Center with a 102-94 victory over the Sacramento Kings. Cousins went for 37 points, and Leonard had a great game for San Antonio. So I know what it's like when you have people packed into downtown arenas. And even though the Wrigley Field is not downtown, there's nothing like the environment that you're getting in Cleveland when they're downtown with their baseball and basketball and football arenas, all pretty close proximity. But this is a great World Series going on. I hope people can enjoy it. But Big C, just want to get your thought on what you're looking forward to this weekend. We have college football, we have NFL football, and we may even see Donald Trump grab some more people by the crotch, Big C. This time, it might be the media, Big C. Your thoughts on this weekend, Big C?
I'm really excited about the World Series opening up in Chicago tonight. They expect the weather to be a little chilly. Winds could potentially get up to 20 miles an hour going towards the outfield. So you may see a high-scoring game tonight, Charlton, in the World Series, something like 7-9, 6-8, Charlton. That's the type of game we'll get tonight in Chicago and the next game over the weekend. But, just a great time for the fans of the city of Chicago and also the city of Cleveland.
Yeah.
We got college football. You're talking about the big game in Michigan, in East Lansing, this weekend, Charlton, with Michigan State. And that game last year ended on the last play of the game when the punter botched the ball and Michigan State picked it up and took it in for a game-winning touchdown, which really derailed Michigan season and propelled Michigan State season.
Yeah.
But this is one of those weekends that you may see one or two teams fall out of that playoff race in college football. NFL, we're at the midway point, Charlton. This is when people will be starting looking for new jobs in a couple of weeks, Charlton, because they know they got to get their resumes polished up.
Oh, yeah.
Like you said, a couple of big games. I really like the Dallas-Philadelphia game on Sunday night. I think that's the game of the week. That's the game in prime time that everybody will see. We're going to get 2 rookie quarterbacks that are going to be able to shine on the prime time stage, Charlton. And after that dismal game last night, what more could you ask for having a great traditional game on Sunday night?
Well, Big C, I appreciate it very much, as we always do. You bring it You always call it Real Talk, and that's because you do Real Talk Big C. And I want to tell you, Charlton and Big C Sports, we are the #1 sports show in the universe. We thank everybody for listening in worldwide to Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeart Radio Network. And as we always say, there's no room for domestic violence. If you ever see a woman in trouble, just call 911. Even if it's Donald Trump grabbing women in the locker room, call 911. There's no room for domestic violence or domestic abuse. And we want to tell everybody we love that you listen to Charlton and Big C Sports, the #1 show in the universe, every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And as we always like to tell you, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.